Are you aspiring to ace the UPSC CSE? Commence your transformational journey with the Vision IAS Delhi GS Foundation Course 2025. Empower your exam preparation through cutting-edge educational technology and personalized learning experiences with tech-enabled learning. Dive into concepts with animations, videos, and interactive tools designed for maximum understanding and retention. Personalized student portal. Access live classes, recorded sessions, and extensive academic resources, all at your fingertips, anytime, anywhere. Enroll now and step closer to accomplishing your IAS dream. With the Vision IAS Delhi GS Foundation Course 2025, batches starting from 31st August, 5 p.m., 17th September, 9 a.m., 24th September, 1 p.m., 30th September, 5 p.m.
Good evening, all of you. I hope you all are doing well. So we'll have this discussion on polity, okay? And if you can, you had your previous sessions also, okay? So first of all, we have very short 1.5 hour discussion because, being honest, we have to be very, very precise, okay? If you key areas, I'll try to make it as productive as I can, okay? And if you see the first of all, we need to adopt with the changing dynamics of UPSC. Okay, if you see the changes in the question paper, you see the pattern that from 2011 UPSC, initially there used to be an optional paper at the prelim stage of the examination. From 2011 they have eliminated that, and now you have a civil services aptitude test paper 1 and civil services aptitude test paper 2. Okay, where you have quantitative aptitude and all. In GS paper 1, the kind of questions that were predominantly asked before 2010. For example, in 2010, they asked a question, how many spokes are there in Indian flag? In Indian flag. So mostly the questions were very factual, and there was one hedge what you can do. What was that hedge? That the cutoff marks was combined of paper 2 as paper 1 as well as paper 2. So even if you are not scoring very well in GS paper 1, by you have a very good command over your optional. So in objective, if you score too much, you will be sailing through the prelim stage. From 2011, they brought, if you see very, very briefly, if I touch and come the changes that UPSC has brought, till 1979, there was no prelims. When my father appeared, it was purely mains examination. Since the number of candidates increased year by year, so they introduced the preliminary stage to eliminate the candidates. Then from 2011 they brought a change, some changes that during that time they brought, forest services prelims would be conducted along with the prelims of civil services examination. So the content of environment is going to increase, and they eliminated the optional subject at the prelim stage, okay, and introduced an aptitude test. If you see the questions for and then 2013, the big change that UPSC brought by bringing more papers into general studies and ethics, integrity and aptitude. If you see the reason, I can give multiple, but I'm not here to say that. One of the reason is the second Administrative Reform Commission reports were submitted, and they have recommended many, although they have also recommended changes related to optionals which were not brought, but many of the changes were brought. And also ethics became a more good governance, and all those things became a what you call too much of talked about subject. So these things were done. If you see from 2011, barring 2024, being honest, 2024 prelims question was very easy. So nobody is allowed to lower the guard. What if we know that 2025, again, they will go to the pattern of 2020? 3. So this time they have asked an easy question, and the cutoff is, although we don't know, it will come after the final stage, but it hovers around 95, 96, which we are expected to see. But it may again go back to 76, which was the cutoff in 2020, Civil Services Examination 2023. So prelims undoubtedly has become more tricky, okay, more tricky, and it has to be taken with uttermost diligence. Because why? Multiple reasons. First, it is not quite possible that most of the students qualify in their first attempt, but if you see the pattern and the statistics available, a majority of students more qualify not in their first. But if you sail through the prelims, that gives you a sense of confidence, and that is actually a tricky stage. If you ask me, whatever, after interacting whatever 50-70,000 students, I can say conveniently, prelims is a mind game. It is a mind game. So many stellar students I meet every day, almost every day, who are very good, but they will conveniently say one thing. On the day of exam, I got a bit. Yesterday, a student came and he said there were 4 or 5 questions, very commonly here. 4 or 5 questions which I knew, but I made mistake in the examination hall. This prelim stage of the examination is about mental grit and your patience in the examination hall. Few basic tips that we, due to the paucity of time, I won't be venturing much into them, but I will strongly recommend that those who have not, usually if you don't qualify prelims in your first stage, and if you attempt for the second time, do not carry the burden of previous prelims in your next prelim. This is one strong advice, because prelims is just a day. The day you will have your day, then you will sail through and you will get the good rank. So there are many toppers who have actually not qualified prelims in their initial 3 to 4 attempts. So never judge yourself that you have not qualified prelims. If you will carry that baggage, it is going to hurt you like anything. Just to add that there have been students who couldn't qualify prelims, but the next day or after a few days, after chilling out a bit, they started preparing for mains and then switched over to prelims by January or whatever, and they qualified and got through into services. So even if you have not qualified, that's not something which you will. I met a student last year who said to me in the month of October that, sir, I didn't qualify prelims. I said, I'm not a bit sad that you didn't qualify. You will qualify, but I'm sad that in October you are still thinking that you didn't qualify prelims in May. So if something happens, prelims is purely a mental grit. It is how you carry yourself in those 2 hours. By and large, the students I interact who are prepared, they carry the same level of information. How you keep yourself calm and how you have practiced over the period of time, it is purely, I give you a very good book on cricket. You will not become a good cricketer unless you play cricket. So prelims, always understand, it's an elimination game, it's a mind game, it's purely a mind game, and how you need to train yourself to be calm in those situations. You see the kind of questions. First of all, I know that you have already been communicated about the basic nature of the examination. Like any examination on earth, if I am given a challenge that I need to appear for IIT, first few things that I will download the syllabus. This I have been reiterating since ages. So syllabus. Okay. Now in prelim stage of the examination, let me be honest, UPSC has not been very benign or forthcoming or comprehensive or forward-looking or very exhaustive syllabus. They have given very open-ended statements like current issues of national and international importance. So with the academic maturity, you will realize what is something which has an relevant on India. In polity, they have written Indian constitution, political system, panchayati raj, rights issue, etc. Indian constitution, political system, panchayati raj, rights issue, etc. etc. is a dangerous term. Okay. So etc. is a danger. So prelims mein unhone syllabus ko, they have not detailed out the syllabus. With the experience, whatever God has bestowed us wisdom, we by and large, we get the sense that what is the framework within which UPSC will be asking question. Okay. And I'll give you many examples if we just need to use the best of time. In the main stage of the examination, nobody has the right to cry. Because in main stage of the examination, UPSC has given the syllabus in a very comprehensive and detailed manner. Every single word that is mentioned in the syllabus, I will strongly recommend that you paste the syllabus of mains right at the workstation where you study. Wherever you study, you must have the syllabus of mains pasted right before you. I am not asking you to memorize the syllabus. That is the foolish thing to do. You just, time and again, you go through the सिलेबस एवरी सिंगल whoever frames the question paper उनको सबसे पहले सिलेबस दिया जाता है. Any academic professor or anything who frames the question paper, he is given a hard copy of the syllabus. Syllabus is right before him. He will frame a question lifting a key term from the syllabus. जैसे role of e-governance, role of civil services in democracy, e-governance, for example pressure groups, historical underpinnings or representation of people act or separation of powers. So whenever they will find a term in the syllabus, they will try to incorporate that term in the question paper. So with the passage of time, you must be acquainted and familiar with the entire syllabus. This is I don't want to be philosophical. I hate giving, because already you are bombarded with information from dawn to dusk. Get up early in the morning, work hard, this, that. I don't. What you should know when you came to Old Rajendra Nagar or anywhere, initially you were not aware with the lanes of Old Rajendra Nagar. First time it was something that impressed you. Second time you became a bit more habitual. With the passage of time, now you have adopted yourself to the place, although the place has not changed. It is the same place. So when you go through the syllabus time and again and integrate this with your newspaper, gradually you will become very familiar with the syllabus. So I would like to add one thing. This is a story of self-love. If you are immersed for 1 year, every nook and corner will start, they will sparkle before you, and you will have absolute clarity what is the demand of the examination. So syllabus is something that has to be very frequently visited, and you must know that where am I going, first thing. Second important thing, I know you must have been communicated that NCERT, I'll try to make it, see, we have less time. Okay, so we have to be very precise. So syllabus ke liye, because even 2 days is not enough. Okay, so you will not know and it will pass. Okay, so syllabus is something which is very, very important. Syllabus में prelim stage of the examination, चलो ठीक है, it is quite not that comprehensive. They have written Indian Constitution, political system, rights issue, Panchayati Raj, etc. So hardly anything to memorize. Mains में every single word that is mentioned in the syllabus, over the period of time you must be familiar with those words. Newspaper पढ़ते you are reading about farmers movement, they asked a question on pressure group. You are reading about national e-governance plan, they asked a question from e-governance. You are reading about representation of people act, they asked a question at section 123, corrupt practices related to representation of people act. You are reading about separation of powers in the syllabus, they are asking a question on separation of powers. So every single thing that is mentioned in the syllabus, धीरे धीरे you must be familiar with the entire scheme of the syllabus, और इसमें वक्त लगेगा. Please don't rush. Nobody learns every day on day one. You will have your own, this is your own story. With the passage of time you will learn. You cannot learn everything on day one. Those, why do people attend classes, and why you see, for example, one sibling qualifies civil services. I have seen many instances, line say 4 siblings qualify, or 2, second sibling also qualify. Reason not because the second sibling is very intelligent. Reason because understanding the demand of examination has been decoded by the elder sibling, and he professionally communicates that to the younger one, and he or she makes it to the civil services, because likelihood of committing mistakes is relatively less due to the experience from someone else. So exam is not the syllabus is not something which you don't understand, integration, calculus, something that is up to you for everyday discussion. So syllabus, now next syllabus you must be absolutely aware. And one thing I would like to add very, very strongly, that you must give due diligence to everything. You must give due diligence to everything. Usually I see in the class that somebody who likes polity keeps on reading polity and becomes an expert in polity. Science and technology is also equally important. Those areas which you don't like, we are human beings. Somebody may like technology and may not like. I see sometimes medicine graduates are struggling in polity. Okay, most of the time some people like modern history, don't like ancient history, or sometimes they don't like medieval history. Now you must give due credit to everything that is in the syllabus. This is one mistake which I usually see. Students who don't like certain subjects, they usually don't try to. You have to enter them, conquer them, and then you have to be diligent about all the 4 subjects. This mistake you don't do. You have to give due diligence and time to all the subjects. Next, you have NCERT textbooks. Now what is the relevance of NCERT? I'll give. In the prelim stage of the examination, UPSC, सबसे पहले NCERTs are those textbooks which trap you, especially in the prelim stage. UPSC likes to ask those questions which you have gone through many times and still you are likely to commit a mistake. Very easy question. For example, they asked from class 11th NCERT textbook that what is the length and breadth of India from west to east, and some people committed mistake or what. So when you read NCERTs, there is a common likelihood that while reading those NCERTs, there will be an inner voice that you know this thing. You know this thing and you are already familiar because you have read that in school. Believe me, still UPSC will be able to successfully trap you. Very recently, a student came to me that he finds boring to read the same NCERT again and again. And UPSC will prove you that they will ask a question from NCERT and you will commit a mistake. Every single question is important, especially from prelims point of view. So NCERT textbook को जो भी आपने पढ़ा है, don't skip the pages other than those boxes and all that comes into let's play and all those things. Leaving that aside, you have to take NCERT very seriously, especially class 11th NCERT for polity. This session is, so you have democratic politics part 1 and 2. These are school level NCERTs. Then for 11th you have Indian, the favorite NCERT of UPSC, 2 NCERTs. One Indian, what you call constitution at work and political theory. So 2 NCERTs are extremely important. One is Indian constitution at work and political theory. Political theory is not an NCERT. वो ये NCERT नहीं है to know about John Stuart Mill, Karl Marx or Rousseau or what if Frederick Engels. नहीं. Basic. What do you mean by secularism? What do you mean by liberty? इतने easy question पूछ के UPSC has assassinated in prelims by asking a question. I don't want to spend time on that. So many questions. What do you mean by liberty? Which of the best, they asked the framed a question, which is the best definition of liberty? If there are more laws, there is less liberty. If laws are changed more often, liberty is in danger. If there is less laws, there is less liberty. If there is no laws, there is no liberty. So they asked the question, which all the 4 options were seemingly absolutely same. But still, if you do not have a conceptual clarity, you are likely to commit a mistake, and the questions are being framed in such way you will commit a mistake, especially in prelim stage. How you will overcome that? You have to read NCERTs very diligently. Even if you know that that is boring, that is something which consumes your energy, still you have to read them, especially 2 NCERTs, that is Indian constitution at work and political theory. Especially in the prelim stage of the examination, they try to ask questions from this, although they have also asked questions in mains from NCERTs. Although in polity, relatively, they have asked less questions, like comparing Western secularism with Indian secularism. So you will cover these 4 NCERTs. A girl came to me and she said, sir, these NCERTs also I am finding tough. So if you are actually not having any idea, then you can read the social studies NCERTs of class 6 to 9 also. Otherwise, most of the students are already familiar with this particular NCERT. Now, I'll just very briefly touch what is the benefit of NCERT. Pehla, NCERT will give you absolute clarity about the basics of the topic. Second, the UPSC question, whoever frames the question, he will have a copy of NCERT kept on the table, and he will frame a question. Jaise they asked the question, a constitutional government is one. They asked the question, which of the following is the best definition of liberty? They asked the question that what is the characteristic of secularism? A very easy question, which they ask a question on the principle of equality. These questions which students are committing mistake were actually lifted from NCERT textbooks. So you have to cover those NCERT textbooks very diligently, and before the examination also you have to revise them. Okay, ab suniye. After NCERT textbooks, now especially in the polity stage of the examination, UPSC wants those students who are not preparing for 10 years, those students who are not preparing for 20 years. I'm just kidding. Those students who are relatively young. So what they expect you to know, not from the factual point of view. So many questions which UPSC is asking, which is from the current affairs. Even if they are asking a static question, they are making it a point that they will be asking from current affairs. For example, so many questions. For example, these days UPSC wants students to go through the newspaper very diligently. And going through the newspaper, believe me, going any source that you are referring to for current affairs, any source you are referring, Vision IAS printed current affairs, I don't even need to say it is set as the benchmark for the industry, that is monthly current affairs magazine that is released by Vision IAS. But no what you call this thing, no dry fruits can replace the main course. कोई भी dry fruit main course को replace नहीं कर सकता है. So there is no alternative to reading news. There is no alternating to reading newspapers. They asked the question, what do you mean by judicial custody and police custody? That year there was a lot of discussions going on Sushant Singh Rajput case. Next year they asked the question on prison, Indian Prisons Act. Next year they asked the question about the what you call whether the states can make a law on particular thing. So whenever some issue is going on, you while reading newspaper, you have to keep your eyes and ears open. Keep what all questions UPSC can ask from this topic. They usually try to frame a question which is conventionally not available in literature. They collect all the material and usually try to frame a question which is conventionally not available in material. I can give you many examples. For example, they asked in the class what is taught, Article 51A. What is the first fundamental duty? That is to respect the national anthem and the monuments, institutions and all. So they asked the question, and Flag Code of India 2002 is discussed. This year they asked the factual question that Flag Code of India 2002, what is the length and breadth of national flag? So it's not that Flag Code of India is not mentioned, but they are asking questions which are, especially in the prelims, which are something that is appearing in newspaper, but what else extra information that you can derive from that. So everything that is going on throughout the year, police custody, judicial custody, prisons, for example, elections are being held in Jammu and Kashmir, there is a talk on delimitation, there is a issue going on related to any particular country. Newspaper padhte waqt you have to use the internet very wisely. Those things that are constantly appearing, usse you must be speculating about the question. UPSC doesn't want the preparation to be institutionalized. Let me be honest. They don't want the preparation to be institutionalized, and it must be democratic for everyone. The student who is preparing from Lakshadweep or a student who is preparing from Itanagar. So what they usually do, those topics which are consistently appearing in newspaper, what all questions can be framed? For example, there is an issue going on CBI. So you should have the habit of about the nature of the CBI. They asked a question on CBI ED also. So third thing which I will recommend is newspapers. Now newspaper I don't want to get into the debate of Hindu or Indian Express. Both the newspapers are equally good. Hindu is more an academic newspaper. What is so special about Hindu? It will keep it very precise. It will keep it very precise, and they will never extrapolate the issue. They will not increase the font. कुछ भी हो जाए, anything happens, they will keep the font intact. जैसे they will not sensitize the news. They will not. I jokingly say that even if the European Asian plate separated, so they will write in the corner, Eurasian plate dissected, China no more. Getting my point? They will not write it in a very exact. So it is purely an academic newspaper. And Indian Express off late because of the commercial perspective, and it's also a wonderful newspaper, and it is, especially from the mains perspective, it is giving explained what, why, what is the reason, critical analysis. So it depends upon your choice. Some people likes Hindu, some people doesn't like Indian Express. That is there. So you will go through the syllabus, you will go through NCERT textbooks, and NCERT textbooks, so you should buy heart. Okay. Then you have newspaper. One standard material I will recommend. Okay, standard material mein usually what happens, what all questions I get, most of the question that you think. First is M. Lakshmi Kant. Okay, so M. Lakshmi Kant, Tata McGraw-Hill. Just go through the previous year's question paper of last 5 years. Okay, sabse pehle, there is no denial of the fact that M. Lakshmi Kant is a wonderful book. It is a wonderful book, but actually it is not an academic work. Actually, it is a compilation of notes. It is not an academic. For example, when you were preparing for your graduation, then there was a standard notes book or a standard guide, or there was a standard textbook. So Lakshmikant is not something which is a standard textbook. It is a best compilation of notes, has minimum mistake, and for any examination where polity is the requirement, from lower divisional clerk to UPSC, Lakshmikant gives you a very solid understanding of the constitution. But one, it is not having critical analysis. Second, current affairs is missing because it's standard text. Third and most important thing, the conceptual ideas. For example, they asked in Lakshmikant it is written what is secularism, but in mains UPSC asked the question what French secularism can learn from Indian secularism. In Lakshmikant it is written a secular state is one, it will not have an official religion, or religion is immaterial while enjoying rights, public offices will not be denied on the basis of religion, the kind of secularism. UPSC is asking a question, do you think our cultural practices are being challenged in the name of
secularism. In Lakshmikant, they will explain what is liberty. UPSC will frame a question paper which is purely invented in UPSC hall, UPSC what you call Bhavan. So you are getting that point. For example, what is your conceptual clarity, where Lakshmikant has been a wonderful book, but over the years the relevance of the textbook, although it will give you a very good understanding of the constitution, but undoubtedly we can say it is not enough. Out of 12 to 13 questions that UPSC is asking, you will conveniently be able to do 3 to 5 questions if you have done your Lakshmikant, but the rest questions you will not be able to do. Where UPSC, for example, in that web series, he says Jitu Bhaiya gives him 25 questions and he is able to do 8 questions, but he is not able to do 17 questions. So he says that why you were able to do these 7 questions, because this I have taken from particular textbook. You were not able to do these 8 questions or 10 questions because these questions I have framed myself. So in prelims, these conceptual questions which UPSC is asking, what do you mean by constitutionalism? What is a constitutional government? What is a liberty? What do you mean by equality? What is the idea of secularism? What is the principle of fraternity? Those questions which are conceptual in nature, where Lakshmikant is likely to trap you. And second important, although it will give you a very solid foundation, and second, from mains perspective, the book is not enough. So I will not say that you don't read if you're doing this book, but you have to be very vigilant while reading newspaper. They will be asking questions which are appearing in newspaper, because UPSC has a psyche that we must take those students who are young. They want those students who are young. How can they take students who are young? So they have to prefer those students who are reading newspaper. Otherwise, if they start asking factual question, 10th May 1857, 6th February 1922, 6th April 1930, getting my point? Or they start 9th January 1915. So if they ask starting these kind of questions, that those students who are preparing for 5 years, they will have an edge because of their repetitive access to facts. So newspaper may jab bhi, whenever you are reading newspaper, itne off late in last 3 years, so many questions UPSC has asked from nowhere but newspaper. So whenever you read, there is a style to read newspaper. Whenever you are reading newspaper, you must think that what all questions can emanate from it. I'll give you so many examples. For example, Article 18. Article 18 में, the Article 18 clause 1, Indian state shall not award any title. Article 18 clause 2, Indian citizen will not accept title from a foreign state. Article 18 clause 3, any person who is not a citizen of India holding an office of profit or trust within the state shall not accept title from a foreign state without the prior consent of President. Article 18 clause 4, any person who is holding an office of profit or trust under government of India shall not accept any gift, emolument or office from a foreign state without the consent of President. UPSC, you have been taught Article 18 clause 1, clause 2, clause 3, clause 4. आप रट के चले गए. UPSC asked a question, how many Bharat Ratnas have been awarded in an year? UPSC asked a question, how many times Bharat Ratnas have been, Padam Shri awards have been discontinued? So do not, now this I said half an hour back also, 1 hour back I was taking a batch. You don't expect UPSC to ask question directly that is given in the Constitution. Now I'll give you 5 examples and then you will understand. For example, there is every child on earth, he will read. Now I will try to integrate prelims and mains because of this paucity of time. For example, UPSC may you read Article 18 clause 1, 2, 3 and 4. Everybody knows that Indian state will not award any title, but UPSC asked a question from this page. UPSC asked a question from this page. So this is padmaawards.gov.in. It'll go to about. So UPSC ne okay, you see UPSC asked a question that how many times these awards have been discontinued. So they have been discontinued twice. So don't expect UPSC to ask a question that is directly from the article. Gone are those days. I will not give you one, I'll give you 5 examples and then you will understand. So for example, dear students, if you see, जैसे Article 18, they did not in lower divisional clerk, states public service commission, or any SSC examination or any other examination will ask you what is the content of article 18. UPSC expects you to know the content of article 18, but they will ask something extra, that what article 18 brings the principle of equality by abolishing titles and arbitrary distinctions in the society. So when you are reading a particular article, if there is something related to that in the laws or any website, you will go and visit that also. First example. Second, Article 21A. It says the state shall provide free and compulsory education to all children in the age group 6 to 14 years in the manner state may determine by law. I said this in the class that UPSC will never ask you that what is Article 21A. This question, if UPSC is asking you, that is doing a charity to you. They asked a question, what is the full form of Niti Aayog in 2015 or 16? UPSC doesn't expect its IAS officers to know that Article 21A is free and compulsory education. Even a pan wala serving pan over there, after hearing the gossips, he knows that Article 21A is right to free and you do not expect UPSC to write Article 21, 25, 28 and 30 and match the following. A, E, B, C, what you call, getting my point, D1, they will not ask a question. They will ask a question that is emanating from that article. So Constitution says the state shall provide free and compulsory education to all children in the age group 6 to 14 years. This everyone knows. In the manner state may determine by law. So what, for example, what do you mean by free? Free doesn't mean free. Free means an amount which will not deter you from accessing education. Free has been defined in Right to Free and Compulsory Education Act. What do you mean by compulsory? What is teacher-pupil ratio? Whether capitation fees will be charged or not? Whether physical punishment will be given or not? What is school management committee? What do you mean by what is the function of school management committee? Whether physical punishment will be given, or what is the local authorities? What do they have in private schools? Your parent-teacher meeting, here your school management committee. So the law that is enacted to implement Article 21A, last year they asked the question, do you think Right to Free and Compulsory Education Act is able to incentivize school education in India? Yani, do you think the act has been successful to bring more students to school? So as a civil services aspirant, they don't expect you to know the content of Article 21A. That is understood that you know Article 21A, but you also know because the language of the Constitution is what is the difference between SSC and UPSC and state PSC. Although most of the state PSCs are now aligning with UPSC, but I'll give you three. Article 21A for an SSC student, it will be 6 to 14 years. For a UPSC student, it will be in the manner state may determine by law, and law is Right to Free and Compulsory Education Act, Annual Status of Education Report, Pratham. Second example, any student I will ask what is Article 40, immediately will say, the state shall take steps to organize village panchayat and endow them with powers to enable them to function as units of self-government. UPSC is least concerned that you know that Article 40 is village panchayat. That too you should know, else you should not fill the forms also. Second part is how the state endow them with such powers to enable them to function as units of self-government. For UPSC, it is important. What do you mean by self-government? Sixth report of local self-government, second administrative reform commission. What is the issue? Now, if I will ask you, what is Article 50? What will you say? Article 50, separation of judiciary from executive. Anybody you ask preparing for any exam, he will say separation of judiciary from executive. The state shall take steps to separate judiciary from executive, but UPSC will never ask this. In the public services of the state. The second line of the Constitution says in the public services of the state. So UPSC will ask you, in prelims, what do you mean by a commissionerate system? What do you mean by how police officers enjoy magisterial powers? What is the what do you mean by separation of judiciary from executive in the public? I don't want to venture into the topics. I am not here to do that. So UPSC line of thinking should be different from other exams line of thinking. They are not going, don't expect them to ask a factual question that ma'am, I know Article 42 maternity relief. They are least concerned. Maternity Benefit Act 1961, 26 weeks of maternity leave. What is the impact of maternity benefit? And the moment you think of maternity benefit, don't expect UPSC to ask, to mention in the syllabus that learn about paternity benefit. The moment you learnt about maternity benefit, you must think that, okay, paternity benefit is also a debate that is going on. So you must be able to do something that is beyond what is visible. I'll give you more example. Article 21A, Article 50. For example, Article 22. They asked the question on preventive detention. They asked the question on, throughout the year you read newspaper, this person was sent to custody, this person was sent to preventive detention, this person that. So they asked the question, prisons form under which list? So you see clearly prisons are in state list entry 4. Getting my point? So your line of thinking should be different. How will you gauge that? When you read newspaper, while reading newspaper you have to be absolutely vigilant. Ab yahan there is a trap. The art of knowing what to study. Many years back, a very respectable teacher of ours said one thing, that we live in an era of bombardment of information. It is more important to know what not to study rather what to study. So while reading newspaper, so many questions I'll give. For example, in recent years in prelims, UPSC has asked judicial custody, UPSC has asked police custody, UPSC has asked prisons, UPSC. So all these questions which UPSC is asking is going on in the newspaper throughout the year. They don't want institutionalization or preparation. They want those students who are reading newspaper. So while reading newspaper, believe me, if while reading newspaper you will keep marking the topics, and thus when they will ask a question in prelims and mains, you will be surprised to know most of the topics what you have marked throughout the year will have. So those students who are just reading the alternate source, current affairs is excellent. I don't even need to say it is the benchmark for the industry, but that is not. You cannot replace the main course menu with dry fruits. So you must read the newspapers very, very diligently. Now, one recent change which I'm witnessing in UPSC, they have exhausted with polity questions. I remember, I'm teaching to remember, I'll speak, and then for honesty, nothing to show, just to honest, those facts which I have been repeating, I can speak for 10 days, next 10 days, okay. So, but UPSC of late, especially after 2022, what UPSC is doing, they rather than polity, they are asking more questions in prelims as well as mains from governance. So because polity, they have already exhausted most of the questions. For example, what is Article 21, right to healthy environment? They asked the question, right to privacy. They asked the question. So they are asking many questions, especially in the mains and prelim stage of the exam, or they are asking those questions which are interdisciplinary, asking more questions which are interdisciplinary. I will not be going much into that. So please understand that standard material which you are following is not enough. Now, I'll come to mains. Okay, main stage. So prelims mein, now I have highlighted so many issues. Prelims mein, if you want to, although see, this cannot be the only thing, but this you can do. What you should do if you are trying it tough to go through the prelim stage. First important thing, your basic 30 to 40% of the questions, UPSC will always ask from the basic sources. So if you have done your basic, all the NCERT is absolutely correct, you are going to be very comfortable in those. Then while reading newspapers, current affairs, and one thing which is most important is practicing papers. And that too, while practicing paper, it should be in a conditioned atmosphere. For example, 9:30 AM to 11:30 AM, for example, it is the prelim stage of the examination. So you sit at that time only. And if you are practicing paper, for example, 50 questions in the month of January, 70 questions a day in the month of February, and one paper a day from April, or one paper a day from May, that is the 25 days. If you will practice the paper, first condition is that you should not leave your place while you are practicing the paper. Whatever painful it is, first day it will be absolutely tough to sit for 2 hours. Second day it will be relatively less tough. After 10 days you will become habitual. After 40 days when you practice the papers, 4,000 questions, 41st day when you will appear for prelims, you will feel that this is just a joke going on within few, because you are already conditioned to this level. So every literature on earth you read, if you don't practice your paper, there is very less likelihood of qualifying prelim stage of the. And even if you have studied relatively less, if you have the art, while practicing papers, what all things will happen? First, you will get to know which areas you are committing mistake. Second, you will get to know what is your tukka level. Almost everyone on earth does the question by tukka, because most of the questions are not direct. So you will get that this many tukkas. Most of the students got it right. I knew one student who is into Indian Foreign Service. He had this habit. He was among the rare breed that he used to practice only 60. He used to attempt only 65 questions, and while attempting, and he used to get 62 correct. Otherwise, most of the questions UPSC will trap you. So all the experiment that you have to do before the T20 World Cup or the 50 overs World Cup, that you will do while practicing. So what is your tukka level, which areas you are making more mistake, what is your static portion, what is your dynamic portion. And one beauty of UPSC is, anyone who has attempted prelims, you ask him, at 11:30 the score is 117. One gets eliminated by the evening. This is the beauty of this exam, that most of the people will not say that they were not prepared. If they prepared, they will say they missed by a whisker. Most of the questions which UPSC is asking will be visible, aapko lagega, but there will be a trap in that. Two things I will give. Every time it cannot be correct, but UPSC has few favorite habits of repeating. First favorite habit of UPSC is, if the question appears to be too easy, you must be a bit cautious. Second, if the question appears to be extremely tough, most likely it is going to be one of the easiest question in the question paper. Only that you have to read. They are just checking your patience in the exam. 10th October 2021, they asked a question, what is the definition of state? They asked, which was the easiest question in the question paper that year. Just go and see how UPSC has framed 4 options. Also, while reading newspaper, you have to be while reading the question, you have to be very diligent. Even if you don't know anything, you should not skip the question without reading the question. Because if, just say I'll ask a question, what kind of questions UPSC asks? UPSC asks a question, which of the following committees were constituted by Government of India for fundamental duties? Which most of you will answer, which committee? Swaran Singh committee. UPSC will give a question, which of the following everyone from here till old Shankar Road will say that, and they will be 100% sure that we have correct. Which of the following committees were constituted for fundamental duties? Option A, Swaran Singh; B, Verma; C, PJ Nayak; D, LM Sri Krishna committee. Any committee. When you will come, you will be sure an answer is Verma committee, because Swaran Singh committee was constituted by Congress party, not Government of India. Verma committee was constituted by Government of India, and UPSC will be happy by trapping you at a place where you are. Most of the students who appear for prelims at 11:30 AM, they are confident that they are qualifying prelims. By 6:30, when all the answer keys start coming, their score gets eliminated and goes up to 86. And because how will you overcome this fear? This you will overcome by practicing more questions, so that you are conditioned in that. While practicing question, the moment you start thinking that I am not going to leave this place, every day you will force your mind to think that this is just like my daily exam, prelims exam. Then you will be able to do wonders in that. Now, if you see the main stage of the examination, now, first of all, related to mains, undoubtedly over the years, because the number of vacancies have reduced, and the academic, due to democratization of knowledge, people are more exposed to quality literature. So the competition at the prelim stage is increasing. Kyun? Because people are everywhere in the country, they watch these videos and they have access to quality information. So they are relatively better placed compared to many years back. So for prelims, I told you that refer to the standard book. Now UPSC has been asking question, which is newspapers. Then I told you about practicing papers. Then you were told how Lakshmikant itself is not enough. Mains undoubtedly is relatively easy, where there is a lot of certainty. Before prelims, you will find the toughest of the guys feeling nervous. So after thousands of students, only few students I see who are so good in their factual stating, they are very confident before prelims. Otherwise, even the topper next year will be very underconfident before prelims, because prelims is purely a mind game, and the day of exam is, and the society is just waiting outside the examination center to judge you that you couldn't qualify even prelims. So that that mental psyche, that student which carries in the next year, is something that is going to hamper you. Those who are very clear, they will know that what is their goal. There are students who are qualifying prelims in 4th attempt and topping the exam among the top rank holders. So even if it gets bad, just chill. Just chill and start preparing for the next year, because you know that what is your level of preparation. The moment you will qualify prelims, you will do good. There is no need to be eager to prove the society. How you can refrain yourself? By not informing anyone. The biggest blunder a student does is informing the world that he or she is preparing for civil services. Whoever knows, call them and say that now I opened a Xerox shop at Old Rajendra Nagar. I am no longer preparing for civil services. It creates undue burden and stress on you, and people start saving your number, that Amit Kumar IPS. And the expectations, and the day of exam, the calls are, so you don't inform. This is purely a story of self-love. If you will be consistent for the entire year. Now I'm coming to mains. Although I know most of the points have already been communicated to you. Okay. So, but still, mains is relatively easy. Why? Because mains is a communication between you and the examiner. First thing. Second, being honest, I'm not going to be too academically opulent or exhibit myself as what you call the ultra Alfred Nobel. Nothing. Mains mein, your predecessors have already done the job. Your predecessors have already done the job. Most of the people who qualify do the same thing. You don't need to do something extra. Answer scripts of the toppers are available on the website of Vision IAS. Most of the topics in every subject is repetitive. Wahi federalism, wahi fundamental rights, wahi other than current affairs. So first thing we should use, those who do not have the idea of writing, it's not that you are going to do. Most of the people who have qualified have actually learned from the predecessors the art of writing an answer. The art of writing an answer. I can talk about candidates. I'll just give you one example. There's a student who qualified 3 times, although he couldn't improve from IPS. Very good student. Said, I didn't do for 1 week. I just go perusing through the answer scripts of the toppers. So by reading the answer scripts of the toppers, not reading, doing a thorough research on that, you will get a wonderful understanding how to write an answer. First thing. Second thing, and a topper said a very intelligent thing. Said, why should I work hard? Most of the topics, health, education, federalism, fundamental rights, privacy, right to marry someone, directive principles, center-state relations, emergency, you have union, president, vice president, state legislature. Most of the topics, there is available content on internet by them. So it is not that all those questions are being asked. Some questions would be asked next year. So we are going, you will get ample of fodder to write your mains answer. So first thing, without any shy, there is no harm in learning from someone who has qualified and consistently scored more than 500. You do a thorough research on the answer scripts of the previous year's topper. It will open your mind that same question can be written from 7 different perspectives, which I know. I have been teaching, of course, I do the same thing repeatedly. So I know so many facts. You ask randomly, ask article, I'll say. But many a times I get an answer script from a student. I see that same fact has been presented in such beautiful manner that I also learn from the student. The same thing can be done from 7 different perspectives. So you must answer. Mains is a communication between examinee and the examiner. The examiner is not aware of your ethnicity, your religion, your gender, your caste, your linguistic background, nothing. This is purely an answer script which is going to impress. So first thing, you will go through the answer scripts of the toppers, and you will learn the art of writing an answer, and not go through. If you are serious about it, you will do a very good research. First thing. Second, you have to answer scripts of the students. Second, you will go through the key terms in the question paper. Key terms in the question. For example, they are mentioning parliamentary committee. For example, they are mentioning current account deficit. For example, they are mentioning secularism. For example, they are mentioning consensual sex between adults of the same gender. For example, they are mentioning constitutional morality. एक key term आपको question paper में मिला. You will start your answer by explaining that term. You must hit the mind of the examiner right in the first paragraph, because by introduction half of the game is done. One of our very senior faculties used to say that I only evaluate the first paragraph. After that, I get a knack what is the student is going to write. So your first paragraph should be a very strong communication. Now in GS, you don't have much liberty. Before some 2015, they used to give answer scripts. So write as much as you can. Now they have understood that if they will give answer script only, so people will write 50 pages, ma'am, we need more sheet. Now they are giving a limited space. You have to write an answer within that space. So first should be directly hitting the question so that a message is conveyed. A message is conveyed to the examiner that you have understood the question very well. Second, very frequent thing, you have charts, diagrams, all these things have been communicated to you. Statistics. Statistics is something which must be updated also. And many a times while reading newspaper, when for example you are a social audit, Meghalaya passed the social audit law. For example, you are talking about women-centric scheme. So while reading newspaper, you came across a women-centric scheme. You have to ignite the mind of the examiner. For example, if you will write a paragraph, that there was a man called Suresh in a village, there is an interesting story about the man called Suresh in a village in Andhra Pradesh. You will write this statement and don't write anything. Examiner will die. He will, after the evaluation, when he will go home, he'll sit with his, she or he will sit with his family or her family. She will say, I don't know what the child wanted to say. Maybe the answer script was snatched while writing an answer. Because human beings are inquisitive by nature. They don't want to read the mundane literature. They want to read something that ignites their mind. So that art of writing an answer, where you can start with, if the question permits, you can start with something interesting. Quote something which is not quoted by your predecessors. I am evaluating an answer script. 50 answer scripts I get. First 15, the same content is coming. 16th is writing something which is special. How can you do that? One, you have a small incidence of a governance project in a state that you can give as an example. Second, you can start by quoting Justice, what you call Justice Indu Malhotra ma'am, or any judge, that Justice Belayam Trivedi. So you can quote somebody. Third important thing, that if you have a small story to communicate, you can use that story also. Now what usually the intellectuals do. For example, there is one strong determination of mine that UPSC has one strong liking. So they will ask a question on Gandhiji. They will ask a question on, most of the time I have clearly said that they are going to ask. UPSC is not concerned about the historical aspect of Gandhiji, that they will ask in history, and that too they don't ask dates. That when did Gandhiji went to South Africa, when did he came to India, and so non-cooperation and Chauri Chaura and civil disobedience and Gandhi and Edwin Pact and 8th August 1942, Gwalior Tank, do or die, Quit India movement started. Nahi. UPSC is more concerned with the philosophical aspect of Gandhiji. Just go and see the last 10 years question paper, you will get your answer. So as a civil servant, for SSC, lower divisional clerk, state PSC, they expect you to know 6th April 1930, civil disobedience movement. 8th August 1942, do or die, Gwalior Tank, Quit India movement. But for civil services aspirant, they asked a question about Gandhian philosophy. So you should have a PDF, 2-page A4 sheet of what are the major principles of Gandhism, what are the major books written by Gandhiji. A fool will read those books. What a topper will come, he will find a synopsis from a quality source at internet, and there are so many people who have already worked. All the 5 books of Gandhiji, what are the principles they are emanating, you will have a 2-page ready reckoner. Then you will, there is YouTube mein it is written, na, thank me later. Niche they write na 6/17, thank me later, then you will thank me later. Every year they ask a question, Ghuma Phira ke from Gandhiji. They ask the question, what is common between Gandhiji and Marx? 2 years later, they ask the question, what Indian comment on nationalism from the perspective of Gandhiji and Rabindranath Tagore. They ask the question, what are the principles of Gandhiji? They don't, as an academically intellectual person, a civil servant, they are least concerned if you know the fact that what was Gandhian movement in non-God. They are more concerned about you from understanding Gandhiji from the philosophical side. They asked the question, what was common between Gandhiji and Marx? I was smiling when I saw that question after the exam. They have directly lifted from the Hind Swaraj, wahan se lift karke seedha usme de diya. So you must understand that many, jaise Gandhi Ambedkar debate, Rabindranath Tagore's views on nationalism, jaise Dr. S. Radhakrishnan, Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan views on Western secularism versus Indian secularism, jaise Gandhian view on caste, jaise Gandhian view on caste, Gandhian view on nationalism, industrialization. These days there is a lot about Dr. B.R. Ambedkar ji. What was Dr. Ambedkar's view on caste? What was Dr. Ambedkar's view on nationalism? What kind of nationalism he was? So all these things, they expect this kind of intellectual maturity. Okay, so in the main stage of the examination, all these things you are going to employ with respect to this, what you call writing an answer. So you must, and throughout the year, throughout the year you must write an answer. Now I'll specifically, this I was commenting on general understanding. Now specifically we'll be talking about polity and governance, multiple aspect on polity and governance. If you see polity and governance, in governance what all topics UPSC has given? UPSC has given role of civil services in democracy, e-governance, that is something which is there, citizen charter, these things they have maintained, and almost every single term that is mentioned in the syllabus from 2013 has been asked till 2023. ऑलमोस्ट हर वो टर्म जो वहां मेंशन है, ई गवर्नेंस, व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय सिटीजन चार्टर, अभी तक उन्होंने पूछ दिया है. First, you should have any source that you are following. You should have, some things you can take from IGNOU, some Vision IAS material is also there. So you should have a ready reckoner of the facts that are there. Facts though should be absolutely clear. Second stage of the examination in governance, especially all those things which are dynamic in nature, जैसे second administrative reform commission. अब ये तो एक repetitive fact है which is given like a balloon कि second administrative reform commission. If you will open the notes of second administrative reform commission, it is too voluminous and only a fool will go through them and memorize everything because you don't have time. Precisely you should know from any standard source you will pick what are the recommendations of second ARC, first important thing. Second important thing, as many as dynamic examples you can give while reading newspapers. So what should be your sources? First source to chalo theek hai, I will say, if you are referring, I will say Vision IAS material. If you are not referring, even if you are doing M Lakshmi Kant, that is also enough. M Lakshmi Kant mein, honestly speaking, it is a wonderful textbook, but in mains it will not be helpful. Second, as I said, I will repeat the same. You have news paper, you have NCERT. कुछ और sources मैं बताऊंगा and how these sources would be helpful. सबसे पहले, all of us know about PRS legislative. PRS legislative, जो almost all of you know. Those who don't know, एक website है PRS legislative. कोई भी गवर्नमेंट के लॉज आ रहे हैं, एनी गवर्नमेंट बिल्स आर बीइंग इंट्रोड्यूस्ड, उसका वो एनालिसिस करते हैं. सो एनी, फॉर एग्जांपल, वक्फ बिल इज गोइंग ऑन, सो यू विल फाइंड अ कंटेंट ऑन पीआरएस लेजिस्लेटिव एंड दे आल्सो मेक वीडियो कंटेंट. Second, for Supreme Court cases, you can go through SC Observer. Supreme Court cases, you can go through SC Observer. That's actually a very good what you call news portal where you will get an understanding. Next important thing, the government communicates. So SC Observer, you can go what you call PRS and all. Government communicates to the citizens. गवर्नमेंट सिटीजन्स के साथ कैसे कम्युनिकेट करती है? गवर्नमेंट कम्युनिकेट्स टू द सिटीजन थ्रू 3 मेजर वेज. सरकार लोगों से 3 तरीके. फर्स्ट, देयर इज अ गैजेट ऑफ इंडिया. गैजेट ऑफ इंडिया. सो गैजेट ऑफ इंडिया ऑफ कोर्स इज ऑफ नो academic relevance from our perspective. Then there is press information bureau. Press information bureau. Then you have प्रसार भारती. सरकार के ऑफिशियल मीडियम क्या है? सबसे पहले तो गैजेट ऑफ इंडिया में बिल्स आर व्हेन दे आर इंट्रोड्यूस्ड, दे आर पब्लिश्ड एंड देन दे आर आफ्टर द पैसेज आल्सो. Second is Press Information Bureau. Press Information Bureau, PIB, that is nothing but the WhatsApp channel of Government of India. Everything happens, somebody is appointed, the brick is taken from here to there, everything will be on PIB. So when the question used to be too factual, PIB was very important. Now you have to, most of the content of PIB is not that important. What is the official broadcaster of Government of India? Official broadcaster of Government of India is Prasar Bharati. Official broadcaster of Government of India is Prasar Bharati. Prasar Bharati is a statutory body. Prasar Bharati Act 1997. Uske major 2 wings, Doordarshan and All India Radio. So Doordarshan and All India Radio work under the overall direction of Prasar Bharati. Doordarshan is for televised and All India Radio is for radio communication. These are the major ways. If you can listen, if you are listening on a particular these news items and all were important. Now you have so many avenues from where you can collect what you call this thing, your piece of information. So that I don't miss on any count, I have deliberately prepared a small what you call point of things that you usually ask those questions and what all you need to do so that I don't miss. Okay, most of the things I have already talked about. Okay, so now one important thing that you see, that is the relevance of previous year's question paper. So regarding previous year's question paper, गौर से सुनिए. UPSC is not going to repeat those questions directly. Okay, first thing. Second important thing, in the prelim stage, you will find some harmony. Sometimes they are asking 38, they will 39B, next time they will ask C. So if you have a previous, before you practice any paper, I strongly recommend, any test series is always secondary to previous year's question paper. कोई भी test series करने से पहले, सबसे पहले you must complete the previous year's question paper. There are, although I'm not recommending this, but there are students, yesterday only I was talking, there are students who are so to the level that they complete previous year's question paper from 1979. Getting my point? They are to the extent if they don't qualify, but at least I will say last 10-15 years question paper you must go through, क्योंकि previous years question paper से अच्छा कुछ नहीं. First thing, sometimes they repeat question also. जैसे in 2013 they asked a question, what are the places associated with the lives of Gautam Buddha? And in 2014 they repeated the same question, and many people committed mistake both the times. Okay, so sometimes they repeat the question also. So previous year's question paper will give you an insight to understand the minds of UPSC. So previous year's question paper is something which you have to go through, and both in the prelims as well as main stage of the examination. While practicing previous years, now listen to me very carefully. In the mains, what kind of questions UPSC is asking these days? Out of 20, see, UPSC hands are more tied than you. Why? UPSC hand आपसे ज़्यादा tied है क्योंकि they don't have the liberty to ask too many questions. There are 20 questions. At any cost, they have to ask 3 to 4 questions from international relations. 2-3 questions they will ask from social justice. So anyways, 7 questions are exhausted. They're left with only 13 questions. In that, they have to ask polity also, and they have to ask governance also. So they also have limited scope. They cannot ask too many questions which are they do not have much academic liberty to ask questions from that. You must understand from that perspective कि UPSC is asking a question which 3-4 questions they will directly ask. जैसे they asked the question, what are the functions of finance commission? सीधा question पूछा. What are the recommendations of 14th finance commission? What are the recommendations of 15th finance commission? Do you think National Commission for Scheduled Caste evaluate the performance? Some questions they are asking you to think in the examination hall. जैसे they asked the question कि what is the effect of globalization on old age population? They asked a question, how Indus Valley civilization serves as an inspiration for urban town planning in India. So there are 3 to 4 questions I am witnessing they are asking which you have not heard before. They will frame those questions and you must be prepared. So please understand one thing. In mains, I read a very beautiful article 2-3 years back that in mains, they don't give you the time to think. In Hindu, there was this article, they deliberately don't give you time to think so that you put your original thought in the question paper answer script, you don't manipulate. So in mains, first thing you need to know, you have to be well prepared with at least 30-40. Believe me, you don't have the time to think. You will start writing, जैसे ही आपने सोचा, वैसे आपका 3 से 4 क्वेश्चन छूटना ही है. 3 to 4 questions you will miss if you think, because you don't have the time to think. So if I carefully go through the previous year's question paper, out of 20 questions, I feel that at any time UPSC is asking 8 or 10 questions which are easily predictable. They are asking on CBI, ED, those questions which have not been invented by UPSC, which are in conventional wisdom. In every paper, though I will not comment, I am not academically competent, but in polity, you must have a list of 30-40 topics which you are prepared before. In A4 sheet, 20 pages will cover at least 40-50 topics. आपका जो उस साल 40 topics which are in news, you must have a synopsis in a very short form. What are the quotes and all? Most likely, 5 or 6 questions will match directly from there. Those 6 questions, you will see the question and you will immediately write answer. You cannot go blind. You must have a detail of 40-50 topics that are going to come. And believe me, if you will make last year, what all things have happened. If I see the question paper, सबसे first thing, you have Office of Governor. So what all things Office of Governor, maybe I'm saying they will ask this year also. Okay. So what is Office of Governor? क्या issue आया है? 1, calling of an assembly session. In Punjab, calling of an assembly session. Second, appointment of vice chancellors. Appointment of vice chancellor. Third, dismissal of a minister. Fourth, not acting on the aid and advice of council of minister. These are the issues that have come out of. Fifth important thing, in general, the difference of opinion and reserving of bills for the consideration of president under Article 200 of the Constitution. These are the 5 areas on the office of governor. If they're asking a question on federalism, most likely they can, and you must be prepared on what all things. Second issue, what you are facing on federalism. For example, you are facing किस aspect of federalism में सबसे ज़्यादा news सुन रहे हैं. Center state relation में even a naive person will say, what is the aspect of federalism you are hearing? एक सबसे पहले fiscal federalism, relationship between center and state on monetary aspect, and second you are hearing about the office of governor, and third the use or misuse of CBI and Enforcement Directorate. 8th January 2022 in mains they have already asked the question on CBI and ED. Prepare a list of topics that you are expecting UPSC to ask. If you will prepare 40-50 topics, most likely that you are going to match 5 to 7, 8 topics that will be there from your prepared notes. You'll just go and reproduce that in the examination hall. Now, dear students, come to the dynamic topics. If you have been reading newspaper throughout the year, they want you to be very precise. For example, if they are asking a question that discuss how urban planning in Indus Valley civilization can inspire contemporary urban planning, they don't want you to write about bronze dancing girl. They don't want you to write about Daimabad, Alamgirpur. They don't want you to write about Lothal. They just want you to write about urban planning in India or stick directly to the question. How will you develop this art? This UPSC, if you will be constantly reading newspaper, then you will develop that art, how you are integrating things. Another important thing in article, many of the articles that appear in newspaper have no significance from the perspective of UPSC. From the perspective of UPSC, every article is not meant to be read. For example, there is an article which is related to a state law. There is a dispute going on related to a state. Whenever UPSC, if something is going on related to the municipal corporation in Delhi or any such thing, UPSC will not. So while reading article also, अब देखिए article होता क्या है? What is an article? For example, if I am teaching for 8-9 years, most of the time what happens, if a student raises hand, I understand what question he is going to. Hardly after 5 to 7 days, I get one question which has been asked by a student for the first time. So I am just for 7-8 years this experience. If a person is teaching the same subject for 30-35 years, so he has an expertise on that particular topic. The moment you will open your mouth, the person will understand from which source you are quoting this. So when someone writes an article in 112-50 words, he is pouring his 15-20 years wisdom into a piece of literature. In that particular thing, what is important? You must understand what is important from exams perspective. Jaise there are 500 articles on collegium or 50 articles on collegium, which will translate into 60,000 words. Even if you read 60 articles, there will be one question if they are asking, and that too you have to write in 150 words. So it is not necessary that those topics which you are already through, you will keep on enlarging your notes by adding more points. If you are already have literature that is enough to cater to the demand, you will give that time to science and technology. You will give that time to ethics, integrity and aptitude. Many students have this passion that they will read every article, whether it is important or not. Those repeat sedition pe 500 articles are written. ठीक है, you have an idea on sedition, that is, and it will be communicated in the examination classroom also. So you should not read those things which are coming. Read it unless if you know that something new is coming. What I see students in the class, they make too much voluminous notes from the newspaper. Newspaper is a pressy writing. इतना voluminous note बना लेते हैं जिसको main से पहले they are not able to revise. So while reading newspaper, today only before an hour a student came with Indian Express newspaper. Most of the news item has nothing to do with UPSC. So in main stage of the examination, I'll just summarize this, then I'll take few questions from you, and then again I'll switch because we have only 15 minutes. First thing, main stage of the examination, you will go through the syllabus. Second thing, you should have your basic facts absolutely clear from NCERT, standard text. उसमें कोई बेईमानी नहीं हो सकती है. Your basic facts should be absolutely clear. Second. Third important thing, current affairs you will do from newspaper. हाँ, there is a problem with newspaper. Newspaper में आपको content नहीं मिलेगा ज़्यादा. ये problem है. Why there is no content? For example, there is an India Sri Lanka. The editor has given him only 50 words. So he cannot write everything. It will indicate. So then what will supplement? What will come as a kaju, dry fruit, badam? What will come? Monthly current affairs that will provide you exhaustive understanding of that topic. Newspaper will initially give you a sound understanding until it is an introductory editorial, but that will give you a supplement what all topics. So you have to go through newspaper. Fourth and most important, the art of writing an answer and writing an answer for the entire year. I'll just give you one short story. There was a student, I remember, in fact not a student, a friend. When the UPSC results were announced, I think at 5:30 PM. And after few days, you know, results are announced right before. Results are announced right before. Results से 4 दिन बाद क्या होता है अक्सर? Prelims exam is scheduled right 4 days before the result. So he was writing his mains, practicing his mains answers in the library when the results were announced. You see the level of dedication. A person who has appeared for interview, is facing prelims for the next time, is already starting preparing for his mains and also preparing prelims. When the results came, he got under 100 rank. There was no need to appear for prelims again, and he was free. So this exam, believe me, so many students I see in the class who are an medicine graduate, who are IITians, so literally we have so many who are management graduate, agricultural graduate, top institutions of the country. This exam you will not find things which are tough. IIT में, management में, you will find a question which you will not even understand. Here in the mains, you will not find a single question which you will not understand. So it is not tough, but it is about consistency. Even if you are losing, you are very near to it. So throughout the year, you have to be consistent, and you must be. This exam is purely, I will say, talent and everything is the 7th level. If you ask me from the classroom experience, every year I am surprised by a corner guy. Okay, by a corner guy who used to sit in the corner, and suddenly I see some reel where he's giving some interview. So I have seen them in the class. Okay, so the point is कि this exam, first you need to understand the demand of examination. Everybody is studying without understanding the demand. First you need to understand the demand of examination. Second, you must know that this is about consistency, studying for the entire year. And third, forget your failures as soon as you can. They are only going to hamper you in the future. They are not going to learn from them and move forward. So many students who have qualified, these are the basic things that you have follow, and syllabus and all to chalo I've talked. If you jaldi say, if you want to ask anything, you can ask. Any? Sorry? Okay, so UPSC stops answers. UPSC till now he's asking a question. UPSC has stopped giving answer scripts. 1. UPSC never used to release prelims marks. It only used to release your mains marks. After the Right to Information Act was passed, now they are releasing prelims marks as well as answer key. Third, UPSC never gives your answer script. क्यों? उसके पीछे एक reason है. If you will file an RTI, they will give that there is a fiduciary relationship between examinee and the examiner. A relationship based on trust between the, if they will start releasing the answer scripts in the RTI format, it will open Pandora box of litigation. For example, an answer has been evaluated, 2 people will secure their answer script, 1 person for the same answer. How? Because there is, although UPSC tries to rationalize, all the examiners meet, but there is an element of subjectivity. If they will start giving the answer script rather than marks which they are already giving, it will open litigation, doors of litigation. Getting me? That is why they are not, because it will be subjective to their interest. Getting? It is not practically possible. समझ रहे ना? I'll explain my, once in some university I filed an RTI more than 12 years back to get the answer script. They have given the marks but not the answer script. They replied me that there is a fiduciary relationship between the examinee and the examiner, so which is exempted under RTI Act, so we will not release those information. Anything related to academics? Any other question you want to ask related to academics? ठीक है, you know, so I will be very briefly, because we have only what you call this thing, 11 minutes which we have to do. Okay. I'll try to summarize from prelims perspective. How many of you attempted prelims? Okay. So when you attempted, no problem, no problem. When you attempted prelims this time, I'm again reiterating the same thing. Although if you would have asked question, I would have added that this time you have ample of time from today. You need to sit down, make your basics should be absolutely strong. While reading newspaper, you must be vigilant what all extra questions can be asked from that. Okay, so many questions UPSC is asking from current affairs, and please, those who are not qualifying, at least you start practicing 5 to 10 questions every day. Because even if you practice 30 questions in the month of January, if you practice 30 questions in the month of January every day, it will translate to 900 questions. February 50 questions, it will translate to 1500 questions. March 60 question, it will translate to 1800 question. And then you have one question paper every day, so it will translate to 3000 questions before the so if you have practiced 5-7,000 questions, you will be so well versed that even if you don't know the answer, then also you will learn the knack of arriving at a alright. And most importantly, by practicing papers, you will get an understanding what mistakes you are frequently committing. Some additional sources I will be talking about, which is something of late you will see. Last 2 years, UPSC have started a new trend. They have started asking articles, which was last year they asked Article 16 Clause 4 and they asked Article 335. This year they asked Article 109 of the Constitution read with 110, which is money bill. Pehle UPSC never used to ask articles by stipulating them. This is the new trend which UPSC has started, that state PSC used to ask. Bihar Public Service Commission asked many years back Anglo-Indian Reservation, Article 331 of the Constitution. But now UPSC has also started a trend where they are asking questions in polity. They asked a question on Article 16 Clause 4 and 335. Always remember, if they are asking a question on article, it is impossible that they will ask a question which is random. Which article which is random, like Article 244, 5th and 6th corresponding article, or they will add Article 243 O, ऐसे करके randomly नहीं. So this is a common question which I get from the students ki sir, now they are asking articles, how will we able to remember those articles? Do you think that a practicing senior advocate in Supreme Court, if you ask him 212, he will answer? It is practically not feasible for the student to remember all the articles. But always remember, those articles which are frequently in news or something related to what is going on, you must learn the art of downloading the app of Constitution. Every student should have an app of the Constitution, and in app of the Constitution you must go through those articles, read from the, why they are asking, because they want you to read from, I can give you so many questions. For example, after this I'll explain. They want you to read the primary source. So मैं ये नहीं कर रहा हूँ from Article 1 to 395 you cover. But you are talking about money bill. UPSC can expect you to know about Article 109 and 110. So much debate going about reservation, sub-classification of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. UPSC can expect you to know about the original source. I'll give you 3 examples. Now, if UPSC asks a question, the Constitution of India explicitly provides for which of the following vetoes? The Constitution of India explicitly provides for which of the following vetoes? Pocket veto, a suspensive veto. Getting my point? Pocket veto, suspensive veto, absolute veto, and qualified veto. Everyone knows that qualified veto is not there in India, while the rest 3 are there. Ito, veto, keto, all these terms are not mentioned in the. These are mentioned in Lakshmi Kant. Now UPSC will ask a question, which of the following terms vetoes are explicitly provided in the Constitution? Any person who will read a secondary book, he will go and say, okay, absolute veto, suspensive veto and pocket veto. Answer would be wrong, because no such veto is mentioned in the Constitution. Since no time is mentioned within which the president has to take a decision, it automatically becomes pocket veto. Since the president has the right to withhold a bring, it becomes absolute veto. 1 second. For example, I am talking about majority. UPSC asks which of the following majority? No majority is mentioned in the Constitution. ऐसे classification नहीं है. Simple majority, special majority, absolute majority, effective majority. In Article 67, they say कि now see the language of the Constitution. It says passed by a majority of then members of the House and agreed to by Lok Sabha. रिमूवल ऑफ वाइस प्रेसिडेंट में लिखता है पास बाय अ मेजॉरिटी ऑफ देन मेंबर्स ऑफ राज्यसभा एंड अग्रीड टू बाय लोकसभा. अग्रीड टू बाय लोकसभा मींस सिंपल मेजॉरिटी. पास बाय मेजॉरिटी ऑफ देन मेंबर्स ऑफ राज्यसभा मींस effective majority. Now neither effective majority is mentioned in the constitution nor simple majority. Of late UPSC has again started a new trend of asking a question which is where they want you to read the constitution rather than any secondary source. So all those articles which are in news, you will not only read from the secondary source, but you will also read the primary. For example, if they ask a question on veto, for example, if they ask a question on majority, usually what UPSC did, everyone on earth knows that Article 110 is money bill. I kept shouting that it is not Article 110, but also Article 109, which is dealing with money bill. They asked the question on Article 109. So those topics which are of brutal importance, you must go through the primary source. And what is the primary source? Primary source is the Constitution of India. This recent trend, jaise this year, which article is in news? Article 200. The governor asking the house to reconsider a bill or reserving a bill for the consideration of president. So any article which is in news, time and again, you will not go through the secondary source also, but also a primary source. Jaise, for example, rules of procedure and conduct of business Lok Sabha and rules of procedure and conduct of business Rajya Sabha. Of course, it is foolish to go through the rules. Who will remember more than 300 rules? You don't have time, neither it is required. All those terms that are mentioned in Vision IAS material or Lakshmikant, those terms you will read from the primary sources. It will hardly take 1 hour. So Rule 198, no confidence motion. Rule 204, budget. In 2021 or 22, they asked the question, as per the rules of procedure and conduct of business of Lok Sabha, the date of election of deputy speaker is decided by speaker. Direct question. Constitution में तो कह रहा है, the houses shall choose the Lok Sabha, the house of people shall choose speaker as deputy speaker as soon as possible. Constitution says the house will choose speaker and deputy speaker as soon as possible. Rule 7 says that the date of election of speaker will be decided by president, and rule 8 says that the date of election of deputy speaker will be decided by the speaker. Now UPSC will ask a question, according to the Constitution of India, the date of election of speaker is decided by the president, which is a wrong statement, because this is not given in the rules. This is not given in the constitution, but this is given in the rules. So of late, even if they are asking one question of this type every year, yahi one question say you will ultimately get 12 questions, and you make 5-7 question mistake, your day is not there. So those things which are in news, jaise Article 85, the president calling a parliamentary session. Article 200, governor को related issues चल रहे हैं. For example, you are reading about reservation, they directly asked Article 16 clause 4 and 335. जो article news में, जैसे अभी एक judgment आया सुप्रीम कोर्ट का सब classification of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, sub classification of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. Now this sub classification of scheduled caste, article 341 of the constitution. So अभी मैं strongly recommend कर रहा हूँ कि primary source को पढ़ने की आदत डालिए. I'm very strongly emphasizing that we collectively, you must go through the primary source while reading laws. I will talk about so many questions UPSC is asking about with respect to the laws from the primary source. At the same time, it is equally wise not to memorize those articles, but at least read those provisions which are given in the constitution. For example, Article 366 is a definition article. All the definitions are given. So, आपको एक constitution का any app should be there at your disposal. At this, I would like to add something other than what has been rejected. थोड़ा सा you have to be smart. Relate just on a what you call, we are wrapping up the conversation. In this exam, please understand कि even if you are relatively less talented, you will easily sail through this exam. First thing you need to do, you have to understand the demand of the, keep everything aside, go through the previous year's question paper, go through the syllabus. You go through, if you can learn from anyone who has already qualified in decoding the demand of the examination. First, keep everything aside and make your strategy. And if you have not qualified, then you see what went wrong. One. Second, those who are taking prelims for the first time, not trying to frighten you, but just saying that you must be very conscious, because prelims is not a relatively, once you will appear, then you will realize, and especially UPSC of late, CSAT, maybe they are trapping students, so you must be vigilant on that count also. Third important thing, that while mains answer writing is something that will take you to heights, So after qualifying prelims, it is of no use if you are, so for that it is cannot be done in 3 months, because there are students who are doing this before years. So go through the answer scripts and find very good ways of writing answers. Any question you have, else we'll wrap up the conversation. Okay, so okay, how to substitute Lakshmikant for mains exam? Now this is one question where usually student asks, sir, whether we should go for DD Basu or MP Jan or any constitutional law, Gaurav Bhaite, or any intellectual book. First of all, there is no hard and fast rule. If you go through Lakshmikant, it will give you a solid understanding. Some chapters which are very frequent, जैसे fundamental rights, judiciary and relationship between center and state. This you can do from DD. बस कोई hard and fast नहीं है, जो हमें जहां से अच्छा मिले. So those topics which are relatively means 2-3 topics we can do from those books which are relatively academically more opulent. Third, you have to focus. If you are Vision IAS material, I don't know whether you're a student or not, but if you have access to, I'm honestly saying, if you have access to Vision IAS material, any standard material, that will cover things holistically. Else, Lakshmikant plus current that newspaper is something which is, jaise most of the questions which UPSC is asking is there in the news for that particular year. If I go through the question paper of GS paper 2 2023, they asked a question on right to free and compulsory education act. प्रथम NGO को इंदिरा गांधी पीस प्राइज मिला था, it was in news. They asked the question of right of persons with disabilities act. So if you are reading newspaper carefully, and while reading newspaper, if you are making notes, this is one of the most vague and what you call gray area where UPSC asked that in GS paper 2, what is the standard textbook for mains? There is no standard textbook other than one standard textbook that will give you access to the basics. You have to gather information from multiple sources. If you have access to Vision's material, that is then it will give you a solid standing understanding. Only thing that is a bit ki thoda sa some extra cases are given which can, so otherwise it will give you a very solid understanding of the basics. Okay, क्योंकि mains में in history, in geography, you can say that there is a standard textbook. Here the questions are very dynamic. How this act is being implemented, how this act is bringing change in the ground. So इसमें उस बच्चे के होने के chances ज़्यादा हैं. That child will do who has been writing answers throughout the year and who has been relatively more consistent. They will have an edge. So we are wrapping up the conversation. You will have discussion on science and technology. Okay, thank you.